I'm Dr. Tamar Chansky, and today we're talking about negative thinking. We all have the experience of, being around negative people, and we know how unpleasant that is. And sometimes we have a choice to not be around people like that. It's a little bit harder when that negativity is coming from our own minds, but there are things that we can do. And the first thing is really to accept and expect that negative thinking is part of our wiring to an extent in response to disappointment or perceived failure, an adverse event, that in a way, we shouldn't be surprised that our first thoughts may be negative and exaggerated. The clincher is, how long do we stay there? We can't help that those first couple, that was so stupid, or I'm so stupid, or thoughts along those lines begin. We can't help that that's what happens first, but we can help how long we stay there. Pivoting out of that negative frame of mind to something not necessarily positive. That's kind of a misperception that people think, hey, if you're thinking negatively, you need to think positively. The research does not really show that that is what's necessary. In fact, if we are feeling upset about something, trying to think more positively may actually make us feel worse because we're lying to ourselves. Go for neutral. Just work on, instead of that negative description or narrative about the situation, just try to be accurate. So first step, accept and expect that those negative thoughts are going to come. Second step is really to relabel that is just that knee-jerk emotional reaction to adversity is that negative thinking. So we've relabeled that. Then we're going to challenge those thoughts by going for that more neutral take on things. So you can do that. I call it fact checking, kind of go through what the negative thoughts are and ask yourself if that's really what you think is true, is accurate. If that happened to someone else, would you think that should be the conclusion they should reach, that they never get anything right, or good things never happen to them? So doing that fact checking, and really the goal with that, in a sense, is to shrink down what just happened into, I call it fitting it in the smallest box. When we at first are reacting to something that is disappointing or negative in any way, thinking tends to get global. We think, this is, everything's ruined. This always happens, nothing good ever happens to me. Those absolutes start to come out. And so in that fact-checking step, what we're doing is shrinking down the problem really to the essential of what just happened, creating that, or rediscovering, we could say, that isolated event. It wasn't everything that went wrong. I feel that way at first, but it was this one thing that happened that we're trying to understand and cope with. So think about the that long distance way of looking at it. If someone else was faced with the same situation and coming to about it, how would you advise them? One strategy that I really like, and folks have enjoyed from little kids to older adults that I see, is what I call the possibility panel. So you could think about 4 people who you really respect and would like their take on the situation that you're in. It's a way of getting out of your own head of the negative thoughts that you have. And they don't have to be people, they could be real people, they could be fictional people. And if they're real people, you don't even have to call them. Just thinking about, what would His Holiness the Dalai Lama say about the situation if he had time? What would your good friends say? What would your grandmother say? Someone from a movie a character from a movie that you really admire. And going to that panel will help you to loosen yourself, kind of wrestle out of the negative interpretation that you have, zoom out and have a different perspective on things. Another way of looking at this, part of that acceptance process that we talked about earlier, is really having compassion for yourself, that this is what happens in life, whatever the mistake was or the unfortunate situation, that whether it's something that happened to you or somehow you had some control over, that what we're here for really is to learn and grow. And so understanding in that situation that perhaps there was something that you are learning that you haven't quite learned yet, and this is part of your one step in your growth process. So rather than blaming yourself for being upset about what happened, then you have two problems: what happened and being upset at yourself about your reaction. Kind of take that upset away, bring in that compassion, and accept that that's something that is just part of, there's no escape, part of the human process. And thank goodness, in a way, because if you look back 5 years and see the things that you didn't understand or appreciate or know how to do then, thank goodness for growth. We can all really appreciate that. Finally, another strategy with negative thinking is not getting stuck in front of whatever the thought process is that you're engaged in. And so we are living, breathing, moving human beings. It's helpful to not just think your way out of what's going on, but to get moving. Sometimes the brain does get locked in kind of a tug of war about something. We feel like we are absolutely losing that tug of war. And so it's okay to not just keep sitting in the same place, so to speak, trying to solve what is going on for you, but really allow yourself to put it down, get moving. And by doing that, the brain gets unstuck. You see things in your travels, and I'm talking about if you're at your desk and you just got some negative feedback about something that you worked on, maybe not just sitting at your desk, even going to get a drink of water or going outside for a few minutes, you see things that you would not expect could help mobilize you and lift you out of the stuck state that you're in. So use your feet. That's an important part of working on negative thinking, is to get up, get moving. And the sort of more realistic and optimistic and uplifting interpretation of what's just happened will come to you much more easily when you step out of that box that you find yourself in. So those are ideas about managing negative thinking. They're more on my website, www.tamarchansky.com. And as always, thanks for listening today, and here's to less worry all around.